All right, everybody. I want to go ahead and introduce Victor Fernandez, who is a former teacher, former STN teacher from Miami, but now he's the PBS NewsHour Student Reporting Lab's senior youth media producer. In addition to managing quality control for student-produced work across SRL's national network, Victor provides technical feedback and detailed demonstrations on every step of the video production process. Before SRL, Victor was a broadcast teacher for 10 years in Miami. What school were you at, Victor?
Alonso and Tracy Morning.
Okay.
Yeah, so I know some students might be here in this session, but I'll say hi to everybody and hi to the teacher there who's teaching there now, Charles Lampard. So hi, everybody.
Welcome.
And we also have Marie. Marie's also a youth media producer with us, and she's been on board for a little bit over a year. So it's really great to see her to be part of this session. And, she's going to be also sharing her expertise. Marie, can you share a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm Marie. Before I joined Student Reporting Labs, I working with Victor. I was a reporter for 10 years, working in television, radio, and digital news in New York and Pennsylvania. And I'm in Pennsylvania. That's where I live now, and that's where I grew up. I covered energy, environmental issues, and government and science and technology. So love working with Student Reporting Labs, SRL, and I'm excited to be here with you tonight.
Great, thank you, Marie. Well, we're so excited. Today, we can't be there in person, but we're here from afar, sharing these experiences with you. We've been doing these type of interviews for the last few months. So it's already gonna be a year. But as soon as we got locked down and we got shut down, and people had to stay home, we moved right away and said, okay, how can we make this work? How can we do the best that we can to help teachers and students be able to continue working in their schools and their communities and across the country? And the best way is through remote interviews. So today we're going to be talking about stories from afar. The do's and don'ts of remote interviews. And I know I've been, seeing some of the competitions you guys been doing, and talked to some of the teachers that you guys have been, they're part of the STN right now. And, I heard that most of the interviews you guys are doing are remote interviews. So that's great. So hopefully from the experiences that you had doing these remote interviews and what we're going to be teaching you today, you could definitely take everything you learned from your experience and also what we're going to go over tonight, and and use them in the near future. Use them whenever you have a story that you're going to be telling in the next couple of weeks, the next couple of months before the year's over. So definitely, we would like to see you guys take everything that we give you, all the tools that we give you, and run with them. So without further ado, let's get into the presentation. Again, my name is Victor Fernandez, youth media producer, along with Marie, and we work with students and with teachers, from what we call our labs. And we're student reporting labs, and we have schools all over the nation. And it's really great to share those experiences with all of you. Okay, so we're going to be talking back and forth, so I'm going to give it to Marie to tell us what is a remote interview.
Okay, thank you, Victor. Yeah, I'm sure most of you know, right? Obviously, it's when you're not in the same place. So you could be, we've done these where a teacher and a student are in different rooms of a school. You could be across the country, you could be in another part of the world. So it's actually an exciting time, even though you might think it's a pain to have to do your work this way. It's pretty cool because we're all learning to get better at this, even your interview subjects. And so you can really add a lot of great voices and different kind of sources into your story, because you really can call anyone in the world or anyone in the country. You don't have to always be physically filming with someone.
That's a really great point. Before, you would always think, okay, who can I interview in my town? Now it's like, who can I interview, worldwide? Who can I call? Who can I get set up a meeting and do an interview with somebody else around the world? So that's really a great point. All right, so let's watch this short story. And the great thing about this is that we did this over the summer, so a few months ago, with our students. We had for this story, we had 6 different students from 4 different time zones. And all of them went out there and did remote interviews. You're gonna see some of them, they had filmed somebody in a house because they were their family member. But for the most part, everybody interviewed somebody else from afar. And you're gonna see that there's 2 styles of telling these stories. So we're gonna watch this video and then we're gonna come back and go over some of these styles.
I don't know why the audio isn't playing.
All right.
Audio settings.
Being a high schooler.
All right, so let me try that again.
Job for someone to be working at a helicopter tour place.
It's been a little weird because
I work at
now. A sandwich shop, and we social distance there, and it was so funny.
All right, so sorry, I'm playing it again. Now you should be able to
especially my workplace. My job was to just watch the helicopters at the end of the day when they land, clean the hangar, and just maintain the helicopter. I was pretty bummed because I actually liked my job, and it was like that was a really good first job since like being a high schooler. Like that's really a unique job for someone to be working at a helicopter tour place.
It's been a little weird because I work at a sandwich shop, and we have to social distance there, and it was so funny. The first couple times we went in, our boss, he would come out and say, okay, now try to make sure that you're 6 feet apart. I know it might be difficult because we'll get sandwiches that we have to make and you have to be right next to each other, but maybe try to not socialize as much when you're doing that and make sure you've got a distance before you're really socializing. It's a great environment there, and that was kind of cool being able to go there because everyone there was super nice, and if you were more sensitive to the subject, they understood and they gave you your space, and it's been a really cool thing getting to work with such neat people.
My family has been affected by the coronavirus pandemic. My mom has been unemployed for over 3 months, and she recently has gone back to work. My sister and me are home, and we're doing chores, and it kind of worries us how they're back at work because we don't know if they're safe or not.
To be totally honest, when we found out that we were going to be able to reopen, I'm like, oh yay, this is awesome. And then the anxiety kicked in where I was thinking, oh man, we're going to reopen. Well, there were lots of different policies I had to figure out and try to figure out ways to still be legal and be able to operate. So we had to have more cleaning stations and had to have things marked out on our mats to show that we were 6 feet apart. You have to be assigned one partner for a long period of time, and if they can't train, then you can't either.
Yellowstone National Park had never closed due to a pandemic before, so that was a pretty enormous impact.
Recently, last week, one of the bosses called me up to, like, if I still wanted to go back. Basically, only tourists go to ride the helicopters. So if we were to open up, like fully come back, I would just want to be sure that I'm going to be safe and the people I'm interacting with, like my health won't be in jeopardy.
I was looking forward to like getting some sort of job. For the past 2 years, every time near the summer months, I've like tried to find some type of summer job. Our school was hiring students. Of course, we all wanted to participate. So I'm really grateful that like I was able to find this opportunity, or like for me, in order to able to make money, and especially doing something that I enjoy doing.
They really aren't looking to take people on right now. It seems like if you want to be able to do this, you kind of have to get really, really lucky. You got to find something online or find, that one rare business that's kind of willing to socially distance, and that's hard to do.
Our students were really, really happy that we were open, but again, it was bittersweet because it wasn't the same still, but it's
All right, so I hope you
baby
guys
steps, which we're
get
really
the
excited.
I'm trying to get out of there you go. All right, so I hope you guys get the sort of like the idea of this remote interviews were all done from far away. And if you could tell, there was no one asking the questions. This is a different style of telling a story, actually doing the interview, and there's no one there to have that interaction with a person. And we're going to show you another example because sometimes you have the person asking the question, you have the person having that conversation, you have the person who's there, back and forth with during the Zoom meeting or the remote interview, that's going on. But if you could see in this one, you'll be able to see that a lot of different people were interviewed and they all have B-roll. And most of the B-roll is shot with their phones. So we're going to we're going to show you a couple of tricks on what to do that as well. How can you produce from afar? How can you tell somebody that's far away to shoot B-roll for you, to be able to film themselves, to be able to get different shots, to be able to get different angles, to be able to have good sound, good lighting, and so on. Okay, so I have one more video I want to show you guys, and the next slide. Hold on. There we go. All right, so watch this video. We're just going to watch a little short part, and you're going to see how this one's a little bit different.
A lot of historicity in overcoming that.
What is the power of poetry for you?
Ooh, the power of poetry is everything for me. Poetry it's an art form, but to me, it's also a weapon. It's also an instrument. It's the ability to make ideas that have been known, felt, and said. And that's a real, I think, type of duty for the poet. One of my favorite writers, Audre Lorde, has said there's no new ideas, just new ways of making them felt. And that's what I try to do.
She's written for a July 4th celebration featuring the Boston Pops Orchestra.
Today, we gather so a founder's words do not go diminished.
A tribute to Black athletes for Nike, an inauguration at Harvard, from which she's a recent graduate. A children's book, Change Sings, and a poetry collection will be released this year. And she has some high political aspirations of her own.
I saw in an interview where you said that you yourself wanted to be president at one point. You even pinpointed the year, I think, huh?
2036, because that will be the election year in which I'll be old enough to run. So
you're getting close now at this point.
Getting close. I feel like I should just tap Joe at the inauguration, be like, I'll be back, let me know how this goes for when I come along. But honestly, it began, I remember being really young, and as I am today, very passionate about social issues. And a teacher said to me, kind of maybe half jokingly, well, you should become president. And I was like, that is not a joke. Let's do it. So definitely doing it. # Commander-in-Chief. A lot of historicity in overcoming that.
What is the power of poetry for you?
Ooh, the power of poetry is everything.
All right. So as you can tell, this one is a little bit different. And Marie, can you talk a little bit about how that interview plays out and how there's conversation going on?
Yeah, so thanks, Victor. I think one thing that's great about the way they produced this was that you could tell that somebody was there in person and had a camera on her at some point during the day. You saw she was putting some pencils in a jar on her desk or writing. Obviously, they pulled together a lot of her past work and performances. But somebody was filming in person, getting some B-roll of her that day. Then they also I think they're probably using Skype, although we usually use Zoom, but they Jeffrey Brown and Amanda were also having a conversation. and it cut between the two shot of them talking. So when he asked her a question, you saw her reaction, and then it cut to the one shot of
A lot of
her talking.
historicity.
A lot. So it's good, and we can get into this more, but you're gonna want to have the ability to use the two shot if you want yourself or the on-camera reporter, whoever's doing it, to be a part of the conversation. It'll just give you more flexibility if you record that as well as the solo shot.
Yeah, and you don't want to include that second shot or the two shot unless you're having that conversation, unless it's natural, unless you're going back and forth from one subject to the other. You get a reporter and the subject, and that's very important. And you see it in that interview. If that's not happening during the interview, if you're getting, just the questions are being asked and you get an answer and nothing else is happening and there's no follow-up, there's no conversation happening, then you don't really need to use it. Like you saw in the first example that we showed you, it was just a person talking and we had B-roll, we had them telling their own story. But if you're having a conversation, if you're talking about an issue, about in your community, and you want that to happen, you want that to be able to be there and be part of the conversation, of course, show that through the two shot. Okay. All right, so let's go through the some of the tips that we have for you, the do's and don'ts of what are we going to be doing during this remote interview. Number one, set expectations. Do a pre-production call, do a Zoom or Hangout, make sure that you see the person in their place that they're going to be recording, look at their space, test your audio, test your video, test your internet connection. And we're going to talk a little bit about troubleshooting these things later, during the presentation. But, get to know your subject, ask a few questions. You don't have to ask all the questions that you have for the subject, but get to know them. If you really want to know something about them that is going to help you later on do it in the interview. I know that sometimes for your competitions, you are doing the interview right away and that's all you have because you have a time constraint. But when you're really setting up for an interview, it's good to have a pre-call. It's good to have that pre-production call and do all the things that you would do in an interview and look at all the things that could go wrong during that interview so that you're prepared and then you'll be able to have success at the end of the original of the interview that you're going to be recording. So make sure, number one, set the expectations. These are some of the do's that you want to do. Okay. Number two, go ahead, Marie.
Yeah, so put the camera at eye level. This is a big one. I see it all the time. People aren't necessarily thinking about their shot. And so you as the producer, you're going to want to coach them so it looks like a nice shot. Because people are sitting in all kinds of different environments. Sometimes they have maybe a laptop down on like a coffee table or on their lap or something. And then it's like, you're looking up their nose kind of shot, or it's really the most flattering, most kind of the nicest way to look is right into, eye level. So make sure that if you're going to be on camera asking questions that you're doing that, and then coach the person to also do that and have them move. Often I tell people, hey, can you get like a stack of books and just bump your computer up a little bit more, because it's an unnaturally high level that you want it to be to make that webcam really at their eye. Have a visually interesting background. This doesn't have to be anything fancy. It's just that a lot of people, sometimes they'll log on and they're like right in front of a blank wall. And then it just looks as though they're like a floating head in nowhere space. So, it doesn't have to be anything special, but like, you see it like in Victor's shot, you can see he has like a shelf behind him. He has some artwork on the walls and there's like a little depth. You see that cool. I like your tree, Victor. But just like something, you can tell he's like in a space. He's in a space. You can tell I'm in a space. There's a bookshelf. There's a door. Like, so nothing. I mean, more than anything, that you want the person to be in a place where they get a good internet connection. So that like really trumps the visually interesting background and they need to be in a quiet space. So sometimes I've had to work with people and they're like, look, this is the best I can do because my house is, there's chaos or whatever. I'm like, fine. But just try to see if you can maneuver people and ask them to just give a little depth behind them. Yeah, and I already said avoid the blank wall. So back to you, Victor.
All right, so this is a little diagram that we have for you guys that, distances between, the computer and yourself, and also between you and your background. Make sure there's at least 3 feet away. You don't want to be stuck right, against your background, because then everything's flat. You want to have some depth, like Marie was saying. And of course, the window or the light should be behind the camera, should be behind the computer. That's very important. And we're going to get into all that in a little bit, so you guys can see it firsthand how we do this. Okay. Number 3, lighting. Make sure there's plenty of light in the room. I have a light turned on, and if I turn it off, and I don't know, the remote's kind of weird. Look at that. The lights are on, but look at me. I'm completely dark unless I have some lighting on me. And that's going to be important for your interview. You don't want that to happen. Or even if I turn off the lights on top, you don't want to have dark corners, because when you have dark corners, the image becomes very grainy, and you don't want that to happen within your video. Okay. Lights should be behind the camera, and do not film directly into the window. We'll see some of that in a little bit. Okay.
And you want to listen to your space. So often I ask people, do you have some appliance? Like this happened to me once. Some guy's dishwasher just started beeping in the middle of things. And people will keep talking, but I say, hey, no, wait, stop, please. Go turn off your dishwasher. So try to anticipate, ask them ask your interview subject in advance. Do you have anything that might make noise in the room? It's a good idea to mute yourself when you're not speaking if you're asking the person the questions, because if there's some kind of sound, like say a dog barks or something in my house, like a Zoom will flip the camera back to me on speaker view if you're using Zoom, because it thinks that I'm now talking because there was a noise. So it's just a good idea, especially if you're, mostly interviewing someone and they're talking, just like turn your mic off when you're not talking, just so that isn't a problem. And then avoid places you can't control. You can't control the other person's environment, but like Victor said, have a phone call and chat with them in advance to try to get the lay of the land. Ask them about, what's the best, quietest place in your house or wherever you're going to be. But don't let them convince you to like do it outside in like a park or something. Just you can't control that space, so try to have it in a place that you and they know will hopefully be pretty quiet.
All right, 5. This is important. Record settings. Okay. And now I know the Zoom does not give you the best settings, but there's some things that you could do to make it better. And if you see there on the screen, and you could take a screenshot of this, make sure you have optimized the recording for third-party video editors. So you want to do that. You want to make sure that's checked, and also uncheck everything else. I don't want to see a timestamp. I don't want to see the participant's name. I don't want to see a record thumbnail. I don't need none of that, but I do need my video to be optimized. So that's important to do on Zoom. If you're using Zoom, make sure that you optimize. Okay. Now, change your phone settings. If you're using your phone to record video or you're recording audio, change the settings so you have the best settings available. Now, you're probably asking yourself, how come you didn't put 4K? 4K is great. 4K is amazing. But when you're talking to somebody who's across the country who might not have the best internet, you do not want them to upload a 4K file. You're gonna be there waiting for days, if not weeks, because if they don't have good internet, it's gonna take a long, long time to upload a 4K file. And do you really need a 4K file for a story that you're doing? Okay, if it's not going on the movie screen where you needed to blow it up, with hundreds of feet, you don't need to have a 4K file. Just do that 1080, 30 frames per second, and you'll be fine. Okay, so what I want you guys to do now, take out your phones. Let's do this right now. If you go to camera, okay, go to camera settings, go to record and change it to 1080, 30 frames per second. And then for formats, I want you to use most compatible. You see that format there? If you're using Android, you could go to the camera app, and then you could change the settings there. But if you're using an iPhone, go to settings, general, go to camera, go to video record, change the 1080p to 30 frames per second, and most compatible. Now, the same thing you could do in audio. And this is important because you want the best audio available. Okay, you don't want something that's compressed. You want something that is lossless, and that's what we're gonna do here. So go to voice memos. Once you're in voice memos, go to, my screen is blocking this, but go to audio quality, there you go. Go to audio quality, and then you select lossless. And that's gonna be uncompressed audio for your phone. So hopefully everybody did that right now. And if you need to go back to this or you need to send this to somebody, take a screenshot of it. And then that way you could tell the person you're telling to record, hey, I want you to change it to this setting. So that way, as the student producer, you know what type of file they're gonna give you their video or their audio in, because you let them know ahead of time, this is what I want you to do. This is what we call producing from afar. You're the producer, you're telling other people what to do, what to record, because you're not physically there. You're not there recording or filming, or you don't have somebody who do it for you. They have to do it. So make sure you guide them to get the best settings available, okay? All right, 2-camera setup. Marie, what do we have here in a 2-camera setup?
Well, yeah, so this is like where you're the on-camera reporter. Like if Victor and I were doing an interview, we're both on camera. So you're gonna wanna think about your own shot, and you're gonna wanna separately record the audio if you can, because that's a great backup to have. You do, take your iPhone or Android and get that audio file. So you just need, like we saw with the Jeffrey Brown, Amanda Gorman piece, they were both on camera at times and having a nice interaction. So it's a great way to have that. It's just another shot. It's another option. It's another way to make it feel real, like you were really having a real conversation.
Yeah. And pretty much you need 2 computers and 2 phones to do so. Okay, and then we're going to talk a little bit about troubleshooting some of this if for whatever reason they don't have this equipment available. Okay, so number 6, what happens if the internet is not working properly? What happens if they cannot record on the computer? What happens if they're having issues with communication? And this happens. We had done pre-calls where everything worked fine. The internet was fine. The signal was fine. We could hear with them. We could see them. The day of filming, all that was not working. The internet was slow. We cannot hear the person. We cannot see the person. We cannot record on the devices. So what do? First of all, you could still use Zoom, but just go audio only for yourself. So that way you don't have the person, going back and forth with the video, and ask them to pin themselves. If you pin yourself on a Zoom call, you have the full screen, you can record locally into your computer what Zoom sees, and Zoom is going to see your camera. So there's no lagging there because you're not sending this to the internet. You're pretty much seeing yourself. And you could do that for both. The reporter could pin themselves and the subject could pin themselves and record. Both of you could record on the computers, okay? Another option you have, use your phone or device to communicate. Okay, and this happened one time. We actually were talking on the phone, having an interview on the phone, but the person was filming on their computer. And the way they were doing it, if you open up QuickTime, you could open up QuickTime and go to a video recording, and it opens up the camera. What do? Press record, and now you're recording your video onto your computer as you're having the conversation or you're having the interview through the phone. All they have to do is send you the file when they're done, recording their interview. So that's another way that you could, do some troubleshooting. If Zoom's not working correctly, if the internet's not working correctly, you could just call each other on the phone and record with another device. You could use one device or the other. You could use a phone to record, you could use a computer, you could use whichever, just, use one of the devices. Okay, and that's the last tip there. If you have your phone, you can set up your phone to record video, and you can have the Zoom audio only because the video is not coming out right, audio only, to hear the conversation back and forth, so you could, hear the questions and the answers. But you're recording video. I'm sorry, you're recording video on your phone. Okay. All right, 7, sharing files.
Yeah, this is super important. And by the way, I just want to say we've learned all of these lessons from experience, as Victor mentioned. Everything we're telling you, we've definitely, all this stuff has happened to us. So it's just a process of you and the other person like figuring it out. But one thing that's really important is after you've done all this work, we really want to make sure you share the files or ask the person to share the files with you via some kind of cloud storage, whether that's Google Drive, Dropbox, iCloud. Don't let them say, oh, here's some B-roll of me and like text it, because then it's just going to be so crunched down and it's going to be like not great. So make sure that they know how. Sometimes I'm working with people who I can sense that they are not, they're hesitant with technical stuff. So I'm like, do you know how to get large files off your phone? Do you know how to get video? Just like make sure they're really comfortable moving files to you and give them very clear instructions about however you want them to do it.
Yeah, and like she's saying, do not send the files through text. The quality is going to be completely, compressed if you do that, especially, the big files that you have on your phone that they're not going to go through. So that's very important. All right, so we're about to finish this part of the presentation. We're going to go through some, Q&A in just a little bit. But before we do that, I want to show you guys 2 videos that we created during the pandemic and during, the parts where we had to help students tell their subjects to record themselves. And one of them is through a video diary. And this is, really great to have somebody record themselves and send you all these videos, because it's going to be great storytelling for you to add into your story, whether they're telling you something on camera or they're showing themselves something. So we have 2 videos here. One of them is recording themselves through a video diary, and the other one is recording B-roll, how to use your phone to record video. So here's the video, and then we're gonna go through Q&A, okay?
My mental taking a toll.
Waking up at a reasonable time, running so I get some vitamin D, eating, doing homework, eating again, doing more homework.
A video diary is a personal view of how you see your world. It often includes candid reactions and thoughts, spoken right to the camera.
So I have a bunch of plants set up in my room.
Now I'm gonna join a Zoom call with my friends. I think they're watching.
You can use your phone to film a video diary, but first you need to clean the front lens with a soft cloth and turn off notification sounds. Next, check your settings. For iPhone, scroll down to Camera, then Record Video, and choose 1080p at 30 frames per second. Then go to Camera, Formats, and choose Most Compatible. Next, prepare your room. You should sit at least 6 feet from a wall behind you. Look carefully at the background and remove any distracting objects. If possible, natural light from a window or door should illuminate your face from the front or side. Once you've found a good spot, prop up your phone using a shelf or books and try to put the phone right at eye level. If the phone is too low, the camera will look up towards your nose. You'll look your best if it's right at eye level. Next, listen to your room. Do you hear any sounds you could turn off? Recording from 2 to 3 feet away from your phone should give you a pretty decent audio recording. Now do a test. Record yourself talking and looking right into the phone's camera lens.
Hi, my name is Omar, and I'm planning 10th grade this year.
Then watch your test to make sure you are framed and lit properly, that the sound is good and the background is clear. Finally, you are ready to record yourself. Try to answer in full sentences that restate the question.
I've been quite stressed with this whole distance learning situation because I've been getting lots of work from my teachers.
As much as you can, try to relax and be yourself. It's okay to be funny or make mistakes. Your viewers just want to get to know you and hear what you have to say.
All right, so that's a lot of tips that you could send that video to somebody else that they could watch it and be able to record. And now this is another short video, it's about 1.5 minutes, how to record B-roll.
Using your phone to record B-roll takes some planning and technique. An interview, video diary, or news package are all enhanced when you can get some shots that visually represent what was said on camera. So first, make a list of visuals that would help illustrate your story. For example, if your subject talks about starting a business, selling her art, you might want to show steps like taking orders, working with the materials, and marketing the art on social media. If you yourself are the subject, you could set up your phone to record yourself or ask a family member to help you film. Next, make sure you get different angles of the same action. Record wide, medium, and close-ups. A variety of shots will allow for B-roll sequences or an action unfolding. Experiment with different creative angles, but make sure it adds to the story. Here are some filming tips. Film horizontally. Keep the phone steady. If you don't have a tripod, you can prop your phone up on a surface. Touch the screen to control where the camera will focus. And film each shot for at least 15 seconds. If the subject is performing or explaining something on camera, make sure to keep the camera rolling for the duration of that action. You will later be able to select a nice nat pop, which means bringing in sound from a scene.
And a lot of different kinds of flowers like roses and peonies.
These B-roll shots will really make your story come alive when it's edited together with your interview, video diary, or news package.
All right.
My mental health has...
There we go. So now let's practice. What I want you guys to do, we have a chat, and in the chat, you guys could drop some questions there as we practice some of these techniques. We have about a few minutes, about 10 minutes. So we want you guys to be able to ask questions and be able to interact with us and let us know what what you guys have learned. So before we go into the Q&A, let me see, do we have some Q&A? I don't know if we have any questions, but all right, so we have Hannah. Hannah is one of our interns, and she's been working with us for the past few months. And what I want you guys to do is I want you guys to look at her room, to look at her shot, to look at her lighting, to look at the way that she's positioned, to look at all of that. And I want you guys to give me tips on how we could help Hannah fix her shot, okay? All right, so let's see, can you guys leave some comments on the chat and let me know what could, what can we do to help her fix her shot? Anyone? She could be more centered. Very good. Awesome. All right, so she needs to be more centered. So now she's moving her computer and she's being a little bit more center. Okay. Pick up the pillows from the floor, Hannah.
I'll do that right now.
Very good. Good. You guys have a good eye. I didn't even see that. All right, have the light in front of her. Okay,
Really?
very good.
Okay, I have one light. I hope this is
Oh,
better.
much better, Hannah. That looks much better. She was a little dark before. Okay, add front of her facing light. That's very good. She can turn on the camera lights on her face. Very good. Add a little bit more headroom. So
Mm.
Hannah, I think they're saying your head is being cut out a little bit. So add a little bit more headroom. Okay, what else? Maybe move the hat rack and straighten the bins.
Oh,
Okay, so it's a little
wow.
messy back there. Wow, they're being very picky. So let me see. Maybe the hats could be, maybe on top of the shelving. I don't know. Maybe so it looks a little bit nicer.
Okay,
Okay, very good.
I will move this down and away.
Okay, very good.
And then maybe, should I
The
place it on
hats.
top of here
Yeah.
or away?
What do you guys think? Should she put the hats there? Oh, somebody put them away or on top. Okay. So yeah, I guess that way they didn't like the hats on top. So some of them said put it away.
Okay.
They say to make your bed a little neater.
I thought I made my bed, but if you guys want to be
We're getting very picky producers here, and I like that. They know what they want. Okay, very good. And I think somebody said your camera is not at eye level.
Okay.
So maybe put some books under your computer, or maybe you put yourself a little bit lower, so that we can have the camera eye level. Yeah, and then probably move the computer down a little bit. Okay. What does it look like? The Christmas lights.
Okay, I can unplug that. I'll do that right now.
Okay. Let's see. So they don't like the Christmas lights. So okay.
I think that
But I
looks a
don't know.
little bit more professional.
Okay, more professional without the lights being turned on. Okay, that's very good. Do you guys like her angle? And I don't know, maybe Hannah, did you look around, maybe your house or anywhere else, so you could say, okay, maybe I could have a better angle, or this is the best you could do?
I went downstairs, but I think especially I took note of the time of day. It's at night, so this has
Yeah.
the most amount of artificial light, but during the day, that could be a different case. So I understand it does matter when you're conducting an interview.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that is very important. And those are the things that you want to ask your subject is like, did they look at anywhere else? Did they look for another room? Did they look at for another background? So we know that, she's young, she's in her room, that's her space, that's where she works, where she has her computer, and that's where she's gonna do her interview. So that this is a great space, I think. In most of your interviews, you probably see the same thing. People are in their bedroom or their office, and that's where they happen to be working most of the time. So that is very important when you guys are doing these interviews, that you're working with these spaces, and that's very permissible. Okay, especially during this time, we know that she cannot go into a workplace or an office where she's with other people, so she's at home. And so at home, you want to look, okay, where do you work and where you do your things, and that's what we want to hear from her. Okay, guys, this is the bookshelf looks authentic. Okay, very good. And that's true. Sometimes you just see people just put bookshelves in the background because everybody's using the bookshelves, right? uh, but I like, it's her room, it's her space, so it's very nice. So do we get a thumbs up for Hannah? Do we like this shot? Much better than before? Thumbs up. Very good. Well, thank you, Hannah. This was great, and I like that you guys participated. I like that you guys give her some tips in order to fix her room, to make her lighting better, to make her shop better. and framing is very important. And that's something that we didn't talk about, but look at her framing. Usually you want to have somebody from the chest up and you want to have enough space around that if you want to crop some of it out later, you can, but you don't want it to be way too close where your head is cut off or and I've seen that. I've seen so much close-ups that all you see is their head. You don't want that because you have to worry about lower thirds. You want to have to worry about what's around her and so on. So that's very important. I think we have a good shot. We have good lighting. And thanks everybody for helping out. And thank you guys for participating. I think we're out of time and I think it was a great session. And I like to see that you guys were, learning something today then, and I want you guys to put it into practice. I want you guys to go out there and use these tips and use the things that we talked about today and the exercise that we just had in your future interviews. So thank you very much and have a great rest of convention.